This podcast was originally live-streamed on the NonSequitur show on YouTube. New episodes air weekdays, Monday through Friday, at 8 p.m. Eastern at youtube.com/NonSequitur show. Make sure you never miss a live stream by visiting www.nonsecshow.com/schedule. For the latest news, polls and updates throughout the day, follow us on Twitter @NonSecShow or Facebook.com/NonSecShow. That's NONSEQ show. If you'd like to get exclusive content, bi-weekly private hangouts with Kyle and Steve, backstage access to chat with guests after shows hosted on your channel and much more, become a Patreon saint of NonSequitur. It ensures we continue to improve our show and brings you into the process at the same time. Visit patreon.com/NonSequitur today while the limited spots are still available.
The following podcast is intended for those who believe bold ideas are righteous, unique perspectives are gospel, and strong opinions are sacred. This is Non-Sequitur. Never follow. And now, here are your hosts, Kyle Curtis and Steve McRae.
Well, Steve, I think we can retire now.
Let's do it. I'm ready. Let's go.
Managed
Cancun? Where we gonna go?
We've managed to
Costa
piss
Rica?
off every dumb religious person on YouTube, and they've spent the entire week talking about. Well, Monday was with Brett Keane. We had the thing that happened with Brett Keane, and he's got 6 videos since Monday out about you or me. Funny enough, he put the picture of me on a video that he says questions for Kyle from Non-Sequitur and Ben from the Drunken Peasants, and he didn't even ask me any questions.
Yeah, I watched that particular video. I actually watched that video. I was still waiting for a question. Not one question ever was forthcoming. So what was the point of the video? He basically was just chastising. If I'm mentally retarded, you should have pity on me. That's what his argument was.
But he's not. I'm not even going into it, but he's not. Then last night we had G-Man and Mr. Intelligent Design, which, I somebody put this on the on our comments on the video. They said, I often wondered who was worse or something like that, G-Man or Mr. ID. And last night I answered the question for them. And I got to tell you, I really like Edgar. He's wrong in everything that he says, but he's very lovable. He's like the guy you can't help but love. So, I mean, that was good at least. And then G-Man spent all day long talking about you and I, and I think we can retire now. Happy. We've done our jobs.
But it's funny because he made a video with you, about you, I guess, or to you, which had nothing to do with you. And then he's going over to my channel and he's leaving comments on one of my videos threatening to TOS, false flag, and shut me down. And then a few minutes later go on air and say, I'm just, a Christian. I forgive these guys and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, people don't realize but now that Brett Keane is beyond duplicitous. He is pretty much the most vile human being I've ever ran across on the internet. Nothing he says is ever true at all. I don't think he's ever uttered any kind of thing that was ever correct. But yeah, he's just a vile person. And yet he's literally threatening to shut down my channel. I mean, if he's that triggered, then he has before. He tried before back in the day. Not my channel. Brett left that comment on your channel so that nobody would give him hell if he left it on ours. He just wanted to make sure that you read it and didn't want to hear anybody else's, that was associated with the video say anything. He's just duplicitous. But let me. That's enough about them. We are. I was just checking right before the show started tonight, and we are about 203 people away from 20,000. So I have made a prediction. I told me and Steve talked about this for it's about 6 months now, Steve, where I said, right,
We wanted to hit
Yep.
20K before Christmas. So it looks like we're on track to do that. It looks like we are on track to do that. So please, if you aren't subscribed, please do that and click the. I've got to get better at this because I think one of the only channels that don't ever say when we start our show, like and subscribe and hit the bell notification.
Yeah, we do. We
got to
put the end card. We always put the end card in.
Yeah,
but here's the thing, I've been telling people this, that share button below is tracked. And so when you hit that share, which is next to the like and dislike button, that gets tracked. And the more people that share that, the more it becomes trending, and the more the algorithm picks it up, the more people it gets recommended to. So if you have 1,000 people watching, even if 10%, even if there's 100 people hit that share, that's a huge number that the algorithm will pick up. So we do appreciate that. If you just hit share it to anywhere, it doesn't matter, that link will be tracked.
Yep, and we appreciate it, guys. Thank you for all of your support as always. We really do appreciate it. Okay, so let's introduce Andrew. Well, one second, Andrew. I forgot that after tonight's show, we are going to have another show following this one at 10 o'clock. The Mind of God will be back here, and he's going to be debating biblical prophecy. The other gentleman, I haven't actually know what I'm supposed to call him yet, so I'm not going to say what the email says yet, so I don't want to dox him. But he will be taking on somebody that thinks that biblical prophecy is not in any way, shape, or form relevant, or none of it came true. So that'll be immediately following this at 10 o'clock. Okay, so tonight we have Andrew Jaskon. I'm saying that right? It's Jaskon?
You got it.
Okay, perfect. And just to tell you a little bit about him, he was a Pentecostal minister. He was preparing to become a missionary to India. He studied the Bible at the Evangelical Christian Wheaton College and obtained his Master of Divinity from Princeton Seminary. And now he is studying to, you said a doctorate in psychology, right?
Yep, I'm a clinical psychologist in training.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So, Andrew Jaskon, thank you for coming on and joining us.
It's great to be here.
And we're going to be covering quite a few different topics tonight. We're going to try to fit them all in, and if we don't, you'll just have to come back. And I think we're going to start out with the Life After Dogma part, and then move into maybe some psychedelics and sexuality towards the end. But we'll be covering the topics tonight. So, Andrew, tell us a little bit about you and how you came into Life After Dogma.
Absolutely. So I have a blog called lifeafterdogma.org, and I have hundreds of pages of articles focused on exposing the psychological abuse of religion. And I believe that religion tends to traumatize people and to create psychological dysfunction on a massive, massive scale. And religion constitutes one of the most psychologically abusive systems of oppression of all times. And it's time for us to wake up and take inventory of the damage that's being done, not just intellectually and scientifically, but the human suffering that's being caused by people who are trapped in these systems of fear and oppression. So that's my work, is to expose that damage through creative writing and speaking. And my background, I grew up in the Assemblies of God, Pentecostal charismatic Christianity. My father is a minister of a large church in New Jersey, and I was born into that church and given a prophecy before I was born that I would help lead the people of the world back to God. And so I always grew up wanting to be a missionary, wanting to bring about the second coming of Christ as kind of like this Jason Bourne figure of Christianity. That was my prophetic mantle. And so I took Christianity very, very seriously for my whole life. I went to church 3 or 4 times a week, did the youth group, the whole Christian thing. I've been a part of many, many Christian groups and cults. And I studied at Wheaton College in Bible and theology. I spent some time as a Pentecostal minister. And during that time, I went with a missionary organization to India to be an undercover missionary to participate in what's known as relational evangelism, which is trying to win people over through friendship and convert Hindus and Muslims to Jesus. So I decided that my vocation was to be a lifelong missionary to India, because it was a really strategic thing to do, as the Bible teaches that through world evangelism, every tribe, tongue, and nation should be reached with the gospel, every distinct ethno-linguistic tribal people group. And when that happens, Jesus is going to come back. So my career goal was the second coming of Christ. That's what I was going for. And
so they didn't do too well with the prophecy, with you being the one to lead everybody back to Christ, did they? Because here you are trying to push them away from it.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe in a roundabout way.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
So what was it that made you, you said, you were doing you were a minister of a Pentecostal church for a little bit. What was it that finally kind of woke you up or started creating doubt towards your faith?
So I had a rude awakening during my time at Princeton Theological Seminary. I went to Princeton Seminary because I considered myself a student of the Bible. I wanted to know what the Bible said, not what any particular teacher or denomination said. So I went there to learn the Greek and Hebrew languages and the historical context of the Bible. And it wasn't really the intellectual issues that got me questioning my religion. And I think this is the case for a lot of people who leave religion. Most of us aren't in religion because it makes sense intellectually, because it's a good logical proof or system. We're in it because of what it does for us. It gives us a sense of identity, community, belonging, and tries to meet some logical needs at least. So I struggled with anxiety, just tremendous anxiety for most of my life. And I was really, really miserable. I went through periods of depression and intense, obsessive cycles, just being caught in my mind. I mean, I would pray the sinner's prayer sometimes thousands of times a day, because we were taught this doctrine of eternal insecurity, which is one of the psychological means of control that happens in religion is that you're never really sure of your salvation. There's always the threat of hell hanging in the background, even for the most faithful. So I was just so anxious, and I said to myself one day, I'm just going to do whatever it takes to get free of fear. I just can't live like this anymore. So I prioritized mental health in my life just because I needed to function. And when I made that commitment to my mental health, to getting better, to seeking counseling, and I had done this for years. I'd also seen Christian therapists. That never really worked for me either. I tried the system to its max, and it didn't work for me. And I think that's the case for most people who leave religion. Most people who leave are the ones who are really sincere and who are really committed to integrity. And they leave because of their devotion, not in spite of it. So that was definitely the case for me. And as I was unpacking this thing and prioritizing my own welfare, I began to see the psychological toxicity of the Bible. And I saw that these oppressive doctrines were throughout the entire Bible. And I tried to attribute it to my particular background or my experience. And I tried out more liberal forms of Christianity. I was a Presbyterian minister for a couple months too after I graduated seminary, but I just couldn't get around the Bible. I saw these abuses were the fault of the Bible and of faithful interpretation to the Bible. I think abuse happens mostly because people get the Bible right, not because they're bad at interpreting it. So I began to see all these toxic psychological doctrines that were resulting in low self-esteem, perfectionism, sexual dysfunction. My sexuality was a huge part of it. I hated my sexuality. I viewed it as a curse from God, because if you believe that sex is only good within marriage, that means if you're not married, for all intents and purposes, sexuality is evil. It's bad. It's dangerous. It has the potential my penis had the potential to throw me into hell. Literally, in that system. I mean, that's scary. That's